Hey, I'm Gavin, and beliefs are powerful. Beliefs are the lens through which we view the world, and not only that, it is the box we place ourselves in, so that um, there are, or maybe a bubble that we live within, which we can't really see outside of very well, and which we end up with blind spots. So they are powerful. And perhaps we always have a belief, right? The one which comes to mind is the belief in an afterlife. I have a nephew who died before he turned 1 year old. I saw a comment in Paul Vanderklay's video which had highlighted something I had said, but the comment caught my attention because someone was saying, from their point of view, how could God allow a 2 year old to have cancer? And so I felt that. I have felt that. And so you have some options on the table. You have beliefs on the table, and you can think of them as sunglasses you put on or some eyeglasses you put on. And you can believe that there is another world to come, and that God is very good, and that all of creation is very good. You can wear those glasses that allow you to see things a certain way and cause blindness. I think there's always a trade-off. There will be a blindness no matter what glasses you put on, or no matter what box you put on your head. So that's an option. There's another option where you could believe there is no God and that this is the only world, there is no world to come. And you can put on those glasses and put on that box. And there's a big difference in the way we act in the world. For some people, I'm not going to say everyone, but what I've noticed within me is that the pain and the suffering in this life that we experience, combined with our worldview, our beliefs, these glasses we put on or the box we wear, the box we find ourselves in, whether we do it intentionally or not, we end up in a box with blind spots, with a position and a perspective and a worldview. And so you can end up becoming someone who wants to avoid the pain and the suffering. And what happens is people who experience the pain and the suffering, which is inevitable in this world, they will be pushed away and ignored and end up in blind spots. And I know that from personal experience. There's people I love who have gone through pain and suffering, and I was not there emotionally, physically, in any regard. I probably was there it's not even probably, I was there in such a way which not only was I not helping, but I was causing more pain and suffering. And it was all because of it was the beliefs I had, this box I was in, the glasses I was wearing, and my blind spots to go with them. And I was emotionally fragile. And so because I was emotionally fragile and I feared having a deep connection with people experiencing pain and suffering because I did not want to experience it, I would be blind to all of this. All the stuff I'm talking about with regard to the way I behaved and treated people, the way I sinned, where I did not love people as well as possible, as good as possible. It's because I'm an emotionally fragile person who is scared of pain and suffering. And then the mind, this powerful mind, will just tune out and ignore people who are going through pain and suffering who could use some comfort and use some love. It would be helpful for not only them, but for me as well. And then I sinned. And yeah, I'm sorry for that, Aunt Deborah, for example. I'm sorry for that, my buddy and my brother and my dad. There's just so many people that where I wasn't there just because I had a set of beliefs. I found myself in a box with a set of blind spots. And it's weird to apologize for being blind to something. But it's something that I can see now, and it's something I can work on so that I can love better. What's interesting is that a lot of the people who put on this mask and appear to be strong, emotionally resilient, instead of being emotionally fragile, it's really a mask that they don't even know that they are wearing, or that we don't even know we are wearing. We believe it is who we are. We believe we're emotionally resilient and tough. And meanwhile, we are treating people in a way which is not good. It's not very good. And we're missing the mark. And what happens is we'll end up blaming everybody except ourselves for the problems in the world. We'll end up feeling resentful and bitter towards people who are doing good and doing very good. Because we'll notice they're tiny, the speck in their eye, and we'll make it into a plank. But if we look deeper and put in a little more effort, we will notice that no, there's something in me that I'm not willing to look at, that I don't want to look at. Something I'm scared of, some fear I have. Or there's something that, there's some delusion that I want to keep. There's a delusion in my worldview which I want to keep. Which is interesting if we're talking about, is there an afterlife, and is there another earth, a second heaven and a second earth? If we're talking about those beliefs, what's interesting is that somehow those are connected to the beliefs about ourselves and the way that we treat others and our own blind spots which we don't even know about. So this is why it's good to practice being humble. It's like all the disagreeable people who are just who don't practice any humility at all. I suspect that underneath that mask is someone that is with dis-ease, that is afraid, that is emotionally fragile. And the world would be such a better place if all of these people who are very much like myself could see our own weaknesses and see our own opportunities for transformation. Opportunities. And I would say, I'll wrap it up with, the basic prayer is that help me see what's in my blind spots, which when I look at it, it's going to make me uncomfortable. And then I can pray for you to help me grow and transform and get better. What's interesting about a person's gifts, which includes both strengths and weaknesses, is that with your strengths, it's hard to improve and transform on your strengths. There's diminishing returns, the law of diminishing returns. But with those weaknesses, that's where you have the most opportunity for growth and fast growth. It's kind of like someone who weighs 300 pounds, their target weight would be 180, or versus a person who weighs 200 pounds and their target weight is 180. It's easier to lose that weight if you're 300 pounds. And so these things where you have the most opportunity for improvement are the things we really ought to try and see within ourselves. So transforming our worldview and our perception of ourselves to include a willingness, a humility, and a desire to see our own weaknesses, and a humility and praying for help, such that we would be able to grow and transform and become stronger in our weak places. And then I'll just end with this idea of skill stacking. I first heard about it from Scott Adams. And so, yeah, everybody's got strengths. And then when you notice your weaknesses, because you've been shown your weaknesses, because you prayed to be shown. So it's not even like you noticed it. You received help. And then you received help in growing in your areas where you have weaknesses. All of a sudden, you have your strengths, and then you have these areas where you're weak that are growing, and those can stack. And then what can happen? What happens then as those weaknesses are identified and the transformations in those areas where we are the weakest, develop over time? What happens then? And what if we all did that? Because nobody's perfect. We just have to go into it remembering that we're not perfect, and being willing to see those areas where we're not perfect and we really don't know about, and we're afraid to look, and where we, whatever. People have different weaknesses, so try to generalize it. Anyways, I hope y'all have a great day. With love. Amen.